Rock DIY or do it you. Going to do an oil change on a 2016 Land Rover LR4 HSE. These are all the tools and supplies that I'll need. In this case, I'll be using this filter wrench, even though the filter itself is in a bad spot for any type of wrench. But there are these other ones as well that don't work with this car. Funnels, some gloves, wrench and socket set, the oil and filter, and the oil change pan, some rags, and some ramps. And I'm doing this oil change because the car tells me so, and then also Land Rover likes to let me know when it's due so they can get my money. And then I also got my trusty work partner, Shelby, for the 2016 Land Rover LR4. Got a S10992 oil filter. When you get this, make sure it has the O-ring in the box. I've bought these before and there was no O-ring in the box. And then 10 quarts of 0-weight-20. I have the car up on ramps. Got a large piece of cardboard underneath the car. This is good just in case there's some spillage. It's a lot easier to get up off the cardboard than it is to get it up off the driveway. Parking brake is on. And I also have chock blocks up underneath the rear tires. There's a oil filler cap, the engine access cover, and this is relatively easy to remove. Just pull up on it and then pull towards you and it comes right out. There's the oil filter cap. Remove the oil filler cap just because when you drain the oil it tends to come out faster if this filler cap is not on. Some people purchase these oil drain pans and they drain their oil and then put the caps back in it and then return the entire thing to an oil turn-in facility or an auto parts place. But I've had this same oil drain pan probably for 12-15 years and I've used it for every oil change I've done on all the cars I've had. And basically after I drain it, I just cap it and then pour the oil into the containers that the new oil came in, and then I just take those containers to an auto parts store to be recycled.
Job. I'm trying to work. Let me work. No, it's not playtime. It's time to work. Shelby. There are 10 14mm bolts that need to be removed from the engine splash guard in order to access the oil drain on the car. So there's 10 of them, and then not 100% sure why, but this one and the one right here are the only ones that have nuts on the backside. So the bolt head is 14mm, but the nut that goes on the backside is 15mm. All of the rest of the bolts just come right out. These very back two towards the back of the car do have a spacer up underneath the plate, so this would go on the inside and then the bolt runs through when you tighten it onto the car. In order to prevent damage to the engine splash guard, recommend keeping a bolt up towards the front and one towards the back, and then when you're ready to remove it, have those bolts loose or as loose as possible, and then hold the plate up against the car as you remove the last two. That's just to prevent the plate from getting damaged or warped from hanging off one bolt. Unlike most cars that have a solid oil pan with a drain plug on it, the Land Rover LR4, this is where the oil is drained from the engine. When you remove the engine oil drain plug, I recommend, as you're unscrewing it, to press it against the drain so that it prevents the oil from coming out too soon. And then once you feel that it's loose, remove it, and the oil won't get all over the place. Review of the bolts and nuts on the engine splash guard. So there's a total of 10, and so there's 6 that are like this. There are 2 that have nuts on them, and then there's 2 long bolts with the spacers that go towards the back of the plate when you remove it. These are all 14 millimeter, 14 millimeter, 14 millimeter, but the nuts are 15 millimeter. And then there's the oil drain plug, which is 14 millimeter. Now that the oil is drained, I'm going to put the oil drain plug back in, put the engine splash guard back on, and then roll the car off the ramps just to make it easier to access the engine oil filter. Now, using an oil filter wrench to remove the cap, which always seems to be a lot of fun to do, but not much space to do it. There's what the used oil filter looks like once you remove it. On the new filter, make sure that it does have an O-ring right here, and that you replace this O-ring, which should be in the box when you buy the new filter. The old filter and the new filter, you can see the new filter has an O-ring here, here, and then this filter goes on the cap, and then the bottom of the oil filter has these little lock tabs, so you know you got it in when it locks in, because it'll be difficult to pull it out. So on the old one, you gotta give it a little bit of a tug to get it out of the top of the oil filter cover. So filter is in, put the new O-ring on. Now it's ready to go back on the car. Before putting the new oil in, I took the oil that was in the oil drain pan, poured it into an old container that was empty, and then since I know I was able to fill it to the same level as a new container, I know I can at least start with a full 5 quarts to start off with. And of course, the car needs to be sitting on level ground to ensure the oil's at the proper level. This is just me, but I always write bad on the containers that I fill with used oil, so that I don't think I have oil that I don't have. And I mean, if you get ready to put it in your car, you're gonna notice almost right away that the oil is black. So that's probably not the best time to find out you don't have oil to replace the used oil. Please like, comment, or subscribe. Thanks again.